Was about to sign a major record deal when my dad showed up drunk, screaming that he wrote my songs and deserved all the credit, forcing me to choose between the career of my dreams or the man who made me believe I could sing. I was 5 minutes away from signing the biggest record contract of my life, like life-changing money, my own album, full distribution, full tour, the whole 9 yards. The sort of thing you dream about when you're 17, in front of the mirror belting out a tune with a hairbrush held aloft like it's a mic. And I'd worked for it. God, I'd worked for it. Open mics in half-full coffee shops. Small backyard shows where the amp would go out during a song. Rejection so harsh it still makes my gut turn. But I persisted because I had a feeling that I had something to say. Something that people might even feel. And that feeling? That was instilled in me by my dad. My dad, sitting beside me on the floor at 12 and drawing chords on the page like maps to treasure. The man who would quiet whisper to me, "Your voice is a gift, kid. Don't waste it." I didn't yet know then how dirty love could get. How praise could become something else. Something that looked like devotion but was really chains. I was waiting backstage at this downtown LA label office. Cement floors, oddly refined water bottles, muted hum of money in the air. My manager, Elena, was retouching her lipstick and pacing back and forth. "Don't overthink," she said, "just smile, shake hands, sign with the pen. You ready?" And I was. Nervous, I guess. But ready. I looked at the tiny flash drive in my pocket, the one filled with my demos, the one labeled My Father's Songs. That title was a joke when I first used it. But no longer, it didn't seem funny anymore. I'd written the words. The melodies. But the framework, the chords, the harmonies, the opening several notes, those came from my dad. And not all at once. Over years' worth of time. Little bites he'd whistle in the kitchen, lines I'd stolen from our all-nighters. I'd considered them ours. Now I didn't know what to trust. I was walking towards the glass doors when I overheard it. At first I thought something got knocked over, a crash, some shouting. Then I heard my name. Loud. Slurred. "She's nothing without me. You hear me? I wrote those songs." The whole lobby groaned. Heads swiveled in unison. I froze on the middle step, my heart slamming against my ribcage. And there he was. My dad. Standing in the middle of the spotless marble lobby, red-faced, sweaty, half a bottle down, and yelling my name like it was a swear word. "Tell them, baby," he yelled, waving towards me like he was announcing something. "Tell them who showed you those chords. Who taught you to sing like that? Don't sign that damn paper till I get my share." It was like the whole room just dissolved. Me and him, alone. His eyes wild. My eyes glued. Elena took one step forward, wanting to be soothing, to be drawing me back. But I couldn't budge. Couldn't breathe. The label head came out. Some massive executive kind of guy in a tailored suit who'd probably had 100 artists come through and out. He glared from my dad to me, then leaned forward to whisper something to Elena. She nodded, turned back to me and said, "Let's give this 5 minutes. You handle him. Then we'll rethink this. Okay?" I didn't say anything. Just followed after her down into this weird side hallway that smelled of stale carpet and coffee. My dad lurched behind us, still shouting, "They're stealing from me. You think I don't know how this game's played? You think I'm some washed-up bum?" Elena gave me her phone and took off. 5 minutes, she mouthed. Then there was just me and him. And silence. For an instant, I thought maybe he'd calm down. Maybe we'd be able to talk. But then he looked at me, blank-eyed, and said, "You're really gonna sign without me? Without giving me credit?" I didn't know what to say. I opened my mouth but nothing. He went on. "All those late nights, remember? All those chords I gave you? I kept us floating, kid. When your mom left. When we had nothing. I was the one who believed in you. You still think that this is about belief?" I finally said. My voice broke, and I hated that it broke. "This is about control. You didn't write the songs. You hummed some chords. I wrote the stories. I lived them." He leaned in. Too close. "You think that you did it on your own? You think some little girl playing the guitar gets here without a man behind her?" That hit like a slap. I shot him, my own father, and I didn't even know the man standing there. The man who brought me hot tea when I lost my voice. The man who told his entire bar that I was gonna be a star someday. He was gone. Or maybe this one had always been here, waiting. I stepped back. You have to go home, I said to him. Sleep this off. His face twisted. You're choosing them over me? I shook my head. No. I'm choosing me. Once, finally, I'm choosing me. He laughed. Bitter and cold. You're going to regret this. And maybe I would. Maybe years later, I'd realize it was a mistake and I'd wonder that I hadn't done otherwise. But then I knew I had to go. Not from the contract. From him. From that part of me that still thought I owed him everything. I strode back into that room with my hands shaking. Everyone stared. I sat. Began to reach for the pen. And stalled. Not because I wasn't sure of the music. But because I'd only lost the man who'd first made me feel as though I was someone whose opinions were worth hearing. I didn't actually sign. The pen was in my hand but I couldn't make it move. My whole arm was 100 pounds. I could feel them all looking at me, Elena with pleading eyes that didn't say a word, the label rep with his discreetly polite smile, even the assistant in the corner trying to pretend she wasn't watching. I was not signing on a line of paper. I was closing a door. On my dad. On that part of me that thought possibly, somehow, I could make this dream work and keep him a part of it. Leave us whole. Need a minute? The executive asked gently, as if he was used to working with fragile artists. I nodded. He stood up. Take whatever time you need. But respectfully, not forever. Then he left the room. Elena stayed. She said nothing, just walked across the floor and handed me a bottle of water. I couldn't even glance at her. Couldn't glance at anyone. My hand was shaking so hard I had to set the pen down. I didn't know he was coming, I finally whispered. She sat down before me. I know. You don't have to say anything to me. I've seen that one before. That unnerved me. I gazed at her. Really? She nodded. More times than I can count. When one starts to climb, another becomes scared they will be left behind. I had to make her see that it wasn't like that. That my dad wasn't some other individual. He was the one who taught me how to play the guitar in the first place. He was the one who sang me to sleep as a kid, who improvised lullabies when he didn't know the proper words. He wasn't jealous. Or maybe he was. Maybe both are possible. I closed my eyes and breathed. Opening them, I spoke. He said that I was his second chance. Elena nodded again, but her voice was soft. That's not your burden to carry. I knew that. In my head I knew. But in my heart? I felt betrayed. Signing felt like giving up on him. And not signing good, that was another way of staying small. Staying stuck. I tightened my grip on the pen again. My hands had stopped shaking. I looked at the contract. My name printed so neat and formal. And below it, a space for my signature. I didn't hesitate. I signed. It felt serious. No fireworks. No trumpet noise. Just right on paper. But in my chest, something caved in. Not a bad thing. More like something that was jammed at last moved. Elena smiled, too proud and too guarded. Like she knew what came next wasn't gonna be easy. And she was right. Because the second I stepped outside of that building, my phone beeped. Text messages from unfamiliar numbers. Emails, comments, even voicemails. There was already a video posted on social media. Of course there was. My drunk and shouting dad in the lobby had now appeared on every site in the world. This girl's dad wrote her songs. One read. Industry plant exposed, said another. Even one of the videos had been slowed down and subtitled, like it was some kind of confession from a courtroom or something. They were so busy speculating over everything, whether I had stolen the music, whether I was a deceiver, whether I even had talent at all. Like watching your worst nightmare walk across the screen before you. I cowered in the back seat of Elena's car, thumbing and thumbing, my stomach knotting up each time a new message came through. Put the phone down, she said gently. I didn't. Couldn't. It was like some dreadful compulsion. One of the guys had commented, she's just another product. Bet her whole story's fake. Another had written, if your own dad says you're a fraud, you probably are. I was choking. And the worst thing? A tiny voice in my head was already buying it. What if they were right? What if all of this wasn't mine to start with? What if I'd just taken my dad's leftovers and spit-polished them into something I didn't deserve? Stop, Elena told me, and this time her voice was tough. She reached over and yanked the phone out of my hand. You're not gonna win by fighting with people who don't even know you. And you don't owe the world your drama. I didn't say a word. Gazed out the window as LA flew past. What am I supposed to do now? I asked finally. She glanced at me. You sing. That's what you do. You make them understand who you are. I wanted to believe that would be sufficient. But I knew that it would not be simple. Because this was about more than music. This was family. Guilt. About standing up for myself in a manner I had never had to before. When we got back to my apartment, I sat down on the edge of my bed and gazed at my guitar case. I couldn't bring myself to open it. Not yet. My voice was buried under 1,000 opinions, none of which were mine. My dad texted me that night. One sentence. Hope it was worth it. I didn't respond. What could I possibly say? Yes? No? I didn't know yet. I sat on the couch, phone at my side, and let myself cry. Not the kind that's loud. The kind that's quiet and tired. The kind where you're not even sure what you're crying about anymore. I cried for the little girl who once thought love came easy. I cried for the version of my father that I once considered to be my hero. And yes, I cried for myself. Because even when you're right, it can still be hell. I didn't sleep that night. At least, not much. I thought I heard the doorbell ring, or the phone vibrate, or my dad calling outside my window. None of it was true, but that wasn't the point. The fear was. I kept going over it all in my mind, his voice in the lobby, the way he stared at me as if I'd done something to him, betrayed him somehow, taken something from him that he could never get back. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him reaching for me, not with love, but with fury. My father. The one who used to march out of the room with me when I cried during piano recitals because I had gotten the wrong note. The one who used to say, "Who cares what anyone else thinks? Just sing." But now he cared about what everyone else thought. And he was wielding it like a weapon. And by the morning, the news had gone viral. Like super viral. A couple of YouTubers already have reaction videos breaking down the lobby video like a crime scene. One dude even pulled up old photos of me and my dad on Facebook and attempted to deconstruct our dynamic. It was just disgusting. And sort of intimate. As if strangers were rummaging through a box of memories that did not belong to them to deal with. I had not wanted to be anywhere but the apartment, but Elena showed up anyway. Coffee held in one hand, folder in the other. The label still insists on moving ahead, she said, dropping the folder onto the table. They're nervous, of course, but your story is catching on. People want to know. And wanting to know is good. I raised an eyebrow. You're okay with this? She shrugged. Not ideal. But survivable. If we get smart about it. I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling exposed. Like the glare of attention I'd struggled so desperately to be in front of was now burning me from the inside out. They want you to do a live stream, Elena said. Straighten it out. Your way. On your terms. No PR announcement. Tell the truth. I looked at the folder but did not touch it. What if I mess it up? She leaned against the counter. Then you fix it. But you can't remain silent forever. People already are making things up. I nodded slowly. She was correct. They were. I was being made into a headline when all I ever desired was to be heard. So I went into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and looked at myself. I was drained. White. Not at all like the confident girl in the studio shots. But she was the same me. Just a little bruised. I organized the live stream that day. Basic, no makeup, no ring light, just me and my guitar in my living room. My hands were sweaty, my heartbeat pounding so hard I feared the mic would pick it up. Hey, I said to the camera. My voice was small. I hadn't known I was gonna do this, but I suppose it's time I have something to say, not to gain the clicks or the streams or the drama, but because I must tell you the truth. My truth. I paused. Drew a breath. Yes. My dad is a musician. And yes, he did instruct me a lot. And yes, some of the first chords that I ever played were his. But the songs that I wrote, those are mine. The words, the stories, the tears at midnight over heartbreak or rejection or loneliness, those came out of my personal experiences. I've been singing since the day I was born, and I never thought that I'd have to explain that. But I guess here we are. I chose a soft chord. This is not me trying to cancel him or shame him. I love my dad. I do. But love doesn't equal silence. Love does not equal giving up your voice so that somebody else gets to be heard louder. My throat closed up, but I kept going. I did not steal from him. I took the affection that he had for music and I applied it to something that saved me. And I'm grateful for that. I hope someday he'll be grateful, too. I didn't read the comments. Just closed the stream and shut my laptop down. For the first time in weeks, I did not feel better. But lighter. Like I'd finally stopped holding my breath. That night, I didn't expect anything. I figured a couple of people would back me. Possibly some others would keep twisting the tale. Something odd, though, happened. People heard. Not all, of course. But some. Answers started pouring in from other creatives, talking about how they too had been through such things, parents seeking credit, old mentors making a return when success hit, individuals trying to change their stories. One of the girls said, "I thought I was alone." Thanks. That one stuck. Because I had felt so alone. Like no one else could ever possibly understand what it was like to care about someone who just kept trying to take pieces of you for himself. A week passed. The noise started to fade. The label scheduled my first studio session. I consented. But I wasn't the same girl who walked through that door the first time. Something was off. One night, a couple of nights later, my doorbell rang. I froze. My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't have to look through the peephole. I knew. It was him. I opened the door cautiously. He was weary. Sober. His shoulders hung low, as if the fight had been sucked out of him. "Can I come in?" he asked. I didn't say a word. Just stepped aside. He sat at the end of my couch like he was worried he'd damage it. We just sat there in silence for a while. Then he eventually said something. I watched the live stream. I stared at my hands. "Yeah? Yeah." He nodded slowly. "You were right. I didn't see that coming." I raised my eyes, and he looked smaller somehow. I let my ego rule me. I was scared. Afraid that if he no longer needed me, then I didn't exist. His voice broke on that last word. "But I do exist," he said more quickly, as if he was reminding himself. "I know I do. Just not in the way that I believed." I nodded. I had nothing to say yet. Not because I was upset, but because I did not trust words at the moment. They had worked against me too many times in recent times. So I just listened. And he just went on. He just went on, not loudly or dramatically, just quietly, as if he'd finally worn himself out with struggling. He said he'd been drinking more than he should since I'd left the house, that the quiet at home had grown suffocating. The fact that he saw me on television, in photographs, in places he'd never have been invited, made him believe he was losing something he didn't know how to live without. "You were my reason," he declared, voice choked with tears. "When your mother left, it was you and I. The music, that was how we stayed together. That is how I realized I hadn't completely failed you. I had no idea what to do with that. Because it was true. The entire relationship had been built on music. It was the only thing we never ever disagreed on up until now." I looked at him there, defeated, nearly ashamed, and I realized something I hadn't up until then. He wasn't trying to ruin my life. He was trying to count. In the only way he knew how. And it came out messy, and selfish, and loud. But underneath all of that, it was just love twisted by pride and fear. "You do matter," I said at last. "You're my dad. That doesn't change just because I turned it into a studio." He nodded slowly. "But I have to let you fly now, huh?" I smiled a little. "You always did. You just didn't know it. We didn't embrace or weep or exchange some movie moment. That's not the way we do this. We simply sat there in all that silence for a really long time, both of us holding on to all the things we couldn't quite put into words." Before he left, he stood in the doorway, looking at my guitar propped up on the wall. "Still sounds like home," he said. And then he left. And so, the chapter was closed. Not shut ajar. Not burned to ashes. but softly closed. After that evening, I lived in the music more than ever. Something had left a hole inside of me, as if I no longer needed to prove myself time and time again. Like I might finally think that what I had was mine not because I'd taken it, but because I'd built it, line by line, verse by verse, out of all I'd lived. The studio sessions were dense, but worth it. I didn't cut. Cried through takes. Laughed in the middle of a verse. Covered with dogged notebooks full of half-written lines scribbled when I was still in school and filled them in. I wrote one of the songs at the time about him. I never said anything to him. Never named it after him. But if he does ever hear it, he will understand. There is a line in the chorus that goes, "You gave me the keys, then slammed the door. I learned to climb through windows and love you more." My voice broke when I sang that line in the booth. The artist kept it. Said it was real? And it was. 3 months later, the album was released. I had no expectation. I still was the girl who sang in the corner of coffee houses. But somehow, it resonated. People played it. Shared it. Talked about it. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. One night, I was playing a little gig downtown, solo in a stool and a golden, dim light. I looked out at the crowd, and there he was. My father. In the back. Not clapping too loudly. Not trying to make eye contact. Just listening. I didn't lose it or get lost. I just smiled. Continued playing. Continued singing. Because that's what I do. That's what I am today. A singer. A daughter. A woman who learned that sometimes the people who push you up are the ones who hold you down. And you can love them anyway. You can thank them anyway. But you don't know them your wings. I still think of that day in the label office from time to time. The day the pen hit paper. The silence afterward. And now I realize that was not the day everything came crashing down. That was the day I stopped waiting for permission to be mine. The day I took control of my tale. All of it. Even the messy parts. Especially the messy parts. Because the fact is, my dad did not author my songs. But he did provide me with something else, something deeper. He instilled in me the sense that I had a voice to use. And whatever comes next, that's a gift I'm going to have for the rest of my life.